One of the things you talked about in this black hole video was Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And again, it was fascinating to watch you almost realizing this while you were saying it and showing it. And you were looking at, again, you talked about Metcalfe's law, you talked about all these data points and what Ethereum brought to the table and how you were just more and more convinced that this quote unquote flippening would happen, or Ethereum would long-term surpass Bitcoin, or at least there was massive value in this network. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that. I've been rewatching my interviews with Andreas Antonopoulos from 2015, 17, and 19. He's basically describing Ethereum before Ethereum really had the traction. And he's describing this whole potential future of smart contracts and these things, but it hadn't really happened yet. And then we see it happen. Tell me what you were describing in that video and what you see and your thoughts on BTC versus ETH.
So it started, I've been involved in Bitcoin first 2012, 13, and I get the value proposition. I get what it is. It's perfection as an asset and its store of value. And yes, it's still too volatile to be a store of value, but it's compensated by the fact it goes up a lot. So, we don't mind. We have to accept the volatility. But then, I was starting to become aware of smart contracts in about 2015 as some friends of mine started talking about it. And I didn't really understand what that was, but when they explained, I started realizing the future of everything from insurance contracts to legal documents to anything could now go on a blockchain. And that meant for me also with my finance background, okay, that means all derivative contracts, which are complicated and messy. And we knew it when Lehman blew up, nobody knows who owns what. So I'm thinking, wow, okay, that's all of finance. Probably there's custody and there's clearing and these are a lot of things. And so I reinvested in the space. I sold out in 2017, too early. I then bought again in 2020 because the macro and crypto come to this point where it was like marriage made in heaven. The chart pattern was perfect. The government's going to print massive amounts of money. The financial system is going to be under massive strain, and Bitcoin is going to come this shining light. And that's exactly how it played out. So I was heavily invested, in fact, 100% of my liquid net worth in this, which is why irresponsibly long was the terminology. Although I didn't use leverage, so it wasn't that irresponsible. And I've got income and other stuff, but anyway, so there was
That's quite a lot. You're all in. You really are all in.
I'm all in. And then I started looking at the chart because I love a chart of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And I'm thinking, this looks like it's basing. This looks like it's going to break out. And this is how I do a lot of my macro thinking. I start with a chart, think, why is it telling me that? So then I start doing work about, okay, well, we kind of think we know how to value Bitcoin because we're using this stock to flow model that Plan B has, and we're doing all this stuff. Maybe it's something else too. Maybe it's network effects. So I start talking to people, thinking it through, and I start looking at Bitcoin in network effect terms, and it works. Metcalfe's law. So I thought, I wonder if Ethereum works, because everyone tells me, oh, well, you don't want to touch Ethereum. It's a scam. It's a shitcoin. It's going to underperform. I'm like, once you tell me something like that, I'm going to look at it. If it's something serious. So I did the work, and it's like, not only is it getting faster adoption than Bitcoin, it's working perfectly in terms of price with Metcalfe's law, and it is almost mirroring Bitcoin back in 2017 with the kind of lag by the number of years, except the network's going faster. Then I looked at the quality of the network, like the amount of connections. And you see that people on Ethereum have built all of these applications, which is all of DeFi, all of NFTs, other uses of smart contracts. We've got central banks using it for the European Investment Bank, putting bonds onto it. We've got people wrapping Bitcoin on it. People are wrapping securities on it. And you're like, okay, this is the platform for now. Things can change. Its adoption is twice the speed of Bitcoin. Just to get everybody's heads around it. I mean, so the probability of Ethereum going up dramatically in price because of that alone is very high. Then cut to tomorrow. So after this interview, once everybody sees it, we'll have implemented EIP 1559. What that basically does is Ethereum got quite expensive to use because gas fees. Well, What they're going to do with fees is they're going to start burning Ethereum, which is basically like a share buyback, which makes it rarer. So the issuance rate probably goes from 4% a year to, we don't know, but let's say 2%. Okay. And then we've got another thing coming in Ethereum, which is ETH 2.0, which is moving to proof of stake. And what's very nice about that is we all get rewarded by staking our ETH. So we get through this 1559, probably everybody ends up staking the ETH because the price is going to start rising. And so everyone locks away. So there's a bunch of Ethereum get locked away. There's a bunch of us who are also holders who've stuck it in our cold wallets. And then there's all of DeFi, which is locking away billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars of Ethereum. So when you look at the analysis, the on-chain analysis, the free float of Ethereum going into this is 13%, and it's falling every day. And as the price starts rallying, which is doing pretty well, and starts approaching the new highs again, A, everybody's going to stake their ETH because why not? B, if not, you're not going to keep it on exchange because it's going up in value, so you tend to put it in a cold storage. And so there's no supply, and you're burning ETH every day. So the supply keeps going down, and the network effect that I've been talking about means that the demand is going up exponentially. So a limited supply asset that is becoming more limited with a backdrop of exponential increasing demand can only equal exponential price rises.
And your view on this hasn't wavered much in the past, say, 6 months.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right. And yeah. And with this latest initiative as well, it just, like you said, gives even more and more reasons. And some of the complaints about Ethereum, about it being inflationary, it addresses all of those. And like you said, with the stake, we've never really seen that effect happen, and it could be big.
I wrote this up for Global Macro Investor, my kind of institutional research service, and I just titled it "The Greatest Trade in the World." And I think the opportunity in ETH is better than the opportunity in Bitcoin in March 2020.
Wow. That being said, you still own Bitcoin?
Yes.
Okay. You still have it as part of that portfolio.
Correct. But it's a lesser part.
You're most heavily weighted Ethereum.
Yeah, I think 55% ETH, 25% Bitcoin. Then I've got a basket of everything from DeFi protocols to other big protocols like Polkadot, interoperability stuff, equally weighted because I don't really know. And I'm just not smart enough to figure it all out. And then I've got a bit of a macro bet in metaverse and community tokens. But again, small. Everything's really an Ethereum Bitcoin bet for me still.